Hello everyone and welcome to the lab this week as we talk about a different array listing. Talking about multi-dimensional arrays, we're talking about bubble sorting arrays. So actually if you follow along really well, your assignment will be pretty simple. So hopefully you've read the chapter and you kind of have a kind of basic understanding. So I am going to create a dimensional array, and I'm also going to do a bubble sort. So if you so happen to watch my video, and this will be very easy for you to learn and help you understand how a bubble sort is done or a dimensional array is done. But when you hand your assignment in, please do not copy my work. Yeah, you might copy the same code or what I'm doing. I completely understand that, but don't use the same examples that I'm using. So come up with something on your own. So I just want to make sure that you're learning something. All right, so what we're going to do here first is we're going to create a new project. So I'll go into Java here, new project. I'll call it CIT130. Well, I already have a bunch of CIT130s. We're going to call it Fall 2016. That way I have something unique. I'm using 1.8 version. All right, great. So we have here source, right click, I'm going to do class. I'm going to call this dimensional array. And I'm going to select public static void. So the only thing I did right here is chose the name of my class, and then chose public static, so it automatically puts it in there. I don't have to type it up. It just saves some time. So the first thing I'm going to do here is going to create I already have a default package, so I don't have to put package name here. So if you have a default package, you don't have to put a package. But if we would come in here and say rename it or delete it and put a new one, then we'd have to put the package there. So for example, let's say that we delete that package. Okay. Yeah, sure, no problem. All right, so guess what happened is our class went away. So probably the best thing to do is create a new package. We'll call this package arrays. All right, so let's delete this default package. Not a problem. Well, I guess it's going to stay there. All right, so let's go ahead and do new class. We're going to do this dimensional array thing again. We got practice first time around at dimensional array. All right, we're going to choose public static. Now you'll notice that our package is array, so we have to put arrays here. Now, if we didn't, then it wouldn't work. All right, so what are we going to do here? Well, first thing is I like to do a lot of comments, and I suggest doing comments because it makes your code easier. We'll put creation of the array. Here. It makes it easier when you're doing comments, and when people read your code, they kind of have to understand what's going on. So I'll do string, call it names, and here I'm going to do the double brackets like you've seen in the lecture, equals, and then I'm going to do the open curly braces, and I'm going to, as you see here, you see the little X thing right here. Oh, got a problem. So what's the problem? It tells you right there, syntax error, insert a semicolon. So we need our semicolon there to close our statement. All right, so add a little bit room there. So what we're going to do here is we need to provide values here and here. So we need to have values in both those areas. All right, so I'm going to pull on a whiteboard since we don't have a whiteboard in this class. So what we're going to have here is, bear with me, this is the first time I use this, is let's say that we have these two boxes. And this ain't going to be perfect because I'm not, even though it wouldn't be perfect if I was in front of you. So we have these two boxes right here. So we need to put a value in both these boxes. Okay, so let's say that we put the value number 7, right? And then we put the value number 4 right here and here. Not perfect. Not sure if I like this. But anyways, we have these two values right here, and those are our arrays. So that's kind of what we're doing here in our code right here. So we need these two brackets to be very similar to those guys. We need to hold values. But here's the thing. We didn't use an int. If we used an int, then that means we put numbers. But in this case, we used a string. We called it name. So we need to put a string names in there. You can't put, we can't put numeric numbers in there. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do Pittsburgh. We'll do football. All right. So then you're going to do Pittsburgh in quotation marks. You're going to do comma, and you're going to do Steelers. All right. And then what you're going to do here is you're going to do the close bracket, and you also have to do a comma. So that means that you're going to have more values. So, oops, excuse me. So what you're going to have is these values right here are going to be zeros. So if I come back to here, let's see, how do I dump those out of there? Sure, yes. All right. So let's go back here and let's draw these guys again. Wow, those are bad. Don't like this. Anyway, so you're going to have 0. And then when it works down the line, what's the next number? You're going to have 1. And then you're going to have 2. And so forth. So you get the gist of it. Those are the values that you're going to have moving forward. So this right here would be, I'll put it here, 0 value on both array boxes. So you're going to have a 0 value. All right, so what's another team that we could put here? Let's go to the West. Seattle, like Seattle. Seahawks. I actually got to visit their stadium last year when I was in the area. All right, let's see here. We need a, all right, cool. And then this will be our 1 value on both arrays boxes. All right, next one. Oops. What's nice about this is it picks it up automatically if you made a mistake. Tampa Bay. The reason I chose Tampa Bay is because I was recently at Raymond James Stadium a couple weeks ago. So we're going to put Buccaneers. Yeah, one of my things is I like to check out new stadiums when I'm in the area. All right, so this is my 2 value on both array boxes. All right, just realized I spelled that wrong. All right, so now we're going to do another team. Go with Buffalo Bills. Been there stadium too, and it's actually really cool because it's out in the middle of nowhere. It's, you know what, it reminds me of, I'm sure most of you here have been to the Star Lake or whatever it's called, First Niagara. Well, Buffalo Bills Stadium is just so like the Niagara. It's out in the middle of nowhere in the woods, which makes it so awesome. If you ever have a chance to check it out, definitely would go do it on both arrays. All right, the next one's going to be New Orleans Saints. I was also just at the New Orleans earlier this year, and I tell you one thing, when you're watching on TV and you're seeing the Superdome, it doesn't look that big, but when you're actually near it, it's insane. It's amazing how big it is. So, 4 value right here for both array boxes. All right, so now we're going to do, let's see, what else can we do? We did New Orleans, we did 2. We need to go back to the AFC because we have no AFC teams here, basically. We'll do the New York Jets. Seen their stadium from afar, never like up close. The MetLife, they share with the, oh, can you guys see what I did wrong? Anyone pick up? I'm talking about all these stadiums and I made a mistake. Forgot to add a comma here. So it doesn't know that it needs to have a comma. All right, good. All right, so number 6 is we need another AFC team. I am going to go with Denver Broncos. All right, so Denver Broncos. We need to put our comma here again. All right. All right, so we're going to stop there. 6 teams: Steelers, Seahawks, Bucs, Bills, Saints, Jets, and Broncos. All right, so now we have our, it's very important that you make your code nice and neat so when someone's going through it, they're able to evaluate it nice and easy. Now, as you notice here, I have names and it says there's a problem because the value of the local variable name is never used. Fine, because we're just starting off the code. We didn't do anything with it yet. So it's going to think that there's a problem. We're not worried about it because we haven't programmed it yet. So now we're going to go use a for loop. We're going to do for. We're going to declare an integer, int. We're going to give it number I. You call it whatever you want to call it. I call it I equals 0. And we're going to end it. And we're going to go over here and say when I is less than names dot. You see when you do dot, you get all these options. So we're going to do length, the length of it. We're going to close that. And all we're doing is this part right here, this for statement, we're basically using criteria. So if you're doing an SQL query, you're doing and these are basically similar, but what they're doing here is we're providing criteria, a conditional statement. We're saying, okay, in our for, we're saying int I starts at 0. That's our first, it's like, think of it as if you're building your fantasy football team, if you play fantasy football, you start off with, okay, everyone goes wild with the running backs right off the bat because they know the running backs are going to get in points. So you're saying, okay, here in my world, I'm going to say that I, the letter I, is going to start with 0. Now you can start at a different number, but don't recommend it. You always want to start at 0 because in an array world, 0 is the first value. And then we're going to say, hey, when I is less than the length of the names. So it's going to take, for example, Pittsburgh, it's going to take that value and do dot length. So whatever that length is, it's going to measure that and come up with a number. The next thing that we're going to do here is we're going to do I plus plus. What that does is, and we don't have to end it yet, but I plus plus changes that I value every time. So let's say here, we're not going to be done here, but let's say that I equals 0. So once it goes to the loop again, guess what? I cannot be 0 again. It has to be 1. So it's going to equal 1. And how it becomes 1 is I plus plus changes that value to a 1, and then a 2, 3, and so forth. Now, we know that we have 6 values in here. It's not going to go past, it's going to go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It goes to 7, then you're going to get some type of out of exchange here, and that's why we have the for loop. Hopefully that makes sense. Now we're going to create curly braces, and we're going to do system.out.println names, because that's the name of a variable. We're going to do a letter I here, because I is the number. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to do 0, which is our other bracket. We're going to say, plus, and we're going to say /t, and we're going to do plus names, that's the name of our variable, and we're going to do I, and then we're going to do 1. All right, now we're going to end it. All right, let's see if it works. All right, well, we need to make that bigger. Well, it worked. Not pretty, because you notice how everyone has different size or whatever the case is, how everything's in there. But the idea was for that value to start off with, is for that value to go down and provide us that information. So I went through the for loop and did everything accordingly. Now, this is just a starter. We'll get into other lab work, and we'll get into more detail things that we could come here. We could provide an index ID and so forth. But right now, this is just a learning about dimensional arrays. So that is your dimensional array. I'll close it. Now we're going to create a bubble sort. This one will be a little bit more complicated. So we're going to do new class. Let's call it bubble sort. And we're going to do public name. All right, so now we have package arrays, but this is going to be a doozy here. Um, just the thought of it makes me cringe because I know how long it's gonna be. All right, so we're going to create an integer that we want to sort using a bubble sort algorithm. So hopefully at this point in your stage, everyone has heard of an algorithm. If you haven't, an algorithm is, think of it as secret recipe. And let's say, like all of us have had a grandmother that could bake their butt off. They can make awesome cinnamon rolls or cakes or apple pies. People say, oh man, my grandmother made the best, this, that, whatever the case is. Well, grandma might have made some awesome blackberry pie or some awesome apple pie, but she might have had a secret recipe that she received from maybe her mom or her grandmother. And it's something that they passed down from family member to family member. So think of an algorithm as a recipe. An algorithm is basically a unique identifier that does something uniquely. So, for example, take Google and then take Yahoo. When you go to Yahoo and you do a sort on sports, you get your results. You do it on Google, you get it so much quicker because they have some type of unique algorithm that goes out to every website crawling and pulling all this information back. But I'm sure that they have something called a data mart set up, which is filter results that they're sorting every hour on the hour, every second to second, whatever the case is. They have a unique algorithm, and however they design their site with their algorithm has made them who they are today. If they didn't have this algorithm that works so well, then maybe Google wouldn't be existing, and it'd be Yahoo, MSN. Those would be our top search engines. So just remember that. All right, so getting back to this, we're going to start off with an integer, int. We're going to call it int array, open close bracket. We're going to give it a new. So now we're saying, hey, we need to create a new int, new stage, a new class. We need to give it values. So we're going to do open close brackets, and we're going to put values by comma. So we're going to start with 5, 90, 45, 150, 3. Now, before we do anything, let's bracket this off real quick. So do you remember when we talked in the lecture, I talked about bubble sorting. So we'd have these brackets, and we'd start off at like 4. Oops, crap here. 4, and then we would have like 5. I won't put all this in here, but I'll just kind of give you an example. 7, and then remember how we went across and said, hey, is 4 greater than 5? It's not, so 4 stays the same. And then we said, oh, okay, it's 5. Let's change that value to 1 to make it easier. Then we say, hey, is 5 greater than 1? Yes. So then that sort moves. So now the value is 4, 1. Comment that out. Now the value is 4, comma, 1, comma, 5. So, and then we go back through it again, and we say, hey, is 4 greater than 1? Equals yes. So, and then we say, hey, is 1 greater than 5? Equals no. So then we have a sort. Our number is 1, 4, 5. Because we sorted it with the bubble sort, changing the value from, we wanted to do ascending from the lowest number to the highest number. So that sequential there is how we came up with that. So that's how this code is going to work in a sense. So let's comment this and say example of our sorting algorithm. All right, so let's go down here, leave that there as is. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to do system.out.println. We're going to say array before bubble sort. So we're going to give it the sort. We're going to give it the beginning stage of it, what it looks like. All right, so now we have that. And now we're going to do a for loop. We're going to say for int I equals 0. Remember, always start off at 0. Then we're going to say, hey, when I is less than array int, geez, I can't type, array dot length. Then we're going to close that, and we're going to do I++ so that we know that it adds it up. All right. Now we have our for loop. Now we need to add system print. Now we're just doing the system print for now, but later on we'll move into the GUI. That's the plan here in this class. But I need to teach you how to do this stuff, and I think doing it terminal-wise is so much better and easier than setting up a form every time just to show you how to do something. So we'll do plus, and we'll close that. Great. All right, so now we got that. So now, let's comment again. We'll say sort an array using bubble sort. We'll say our recipe of bubble sort algorithm. All right. System.out.println array after bubble sort. So, geez, I don't know how to spell. All right. So we're going to provide what it looks like afterwards. So we're going to do this whole thing. So you know what? I'm going to save time. I hate to type. As you see, I can't type, so I'm going to copy this. So we paste it in there. We're going to have for I equals less than an array. It's going to be basically the same thing. Trying to think. Yep, it is the same thing. That's right. All right, so we're going to do that. We're going to end there. So now we have that part of it done. Now we're going to set up a private static void bubble sort. And we're going to use parameters. So hopefully at this point you've used parameters before. We're going to do an int, and we're going to do an int array. All right. So in comments, we're going to do this is another way you can do comments. If you start off with a backslash and a star, you can add a bunch of stuff if you're doing a large amount of comments. So we're going to say in the bubble sort, oops, we basically traverse the array from first to array length -1 position, and compare the element with the next one, kind of like we have at the top there. We're doing a comparison. Element is swapped with the next element if the next element is greater. All right. So now we say bubble buffle, great. Bubble sort steps are as follows. So now we'll do the steps that we need to have in there. So in order to make this work, we're going to have 1, compare array 0, and array 1. So we want to compare the two and say, hey, what do we have here? All right. Second thing we're going to do is if array 0 is greater than array 1, switch them like we did up there. Number 3, compare array I1 and array 2. 4. If array 1 is greater than array 2, switch it. And so forth. So you kind of get the gist where we're going there. And then we'll have another comparison. We'll have compare array n. We haven't got to this point yet. 1 and array 2. N, I'm sorry. And then if n -1 is greater than array n, then switch it. All right. A lot of typing. That's why I knew this was going to be a doozy. All right. So after this step, we will have the largest element at the last index. And report, repeat. All right, so repeat the same steps. So hopefully with all this information here and all this information we did up here and with the lecture, it makes a lot more sense than maybe it did 5 seconds ago. All right, so we start off with int n, because we talked about it, equals int array dot length. Then we do int temp equals 0. Might go a little fast here, sorry. Now we need to do a for loop. We'll say for int I equals 0, not 1. I is less than n, and then I plus plus. Then this is where it gets a little tricky now. We have that for loop. Now we need to do another for loop. We'll say for, if I could type, that would be awesome. Int j equals 1. J is less than n minus I. And then j plus plus. For loop on j. If int array j -1 is greater than int array j. Yep. Then switch the elements. We're going to do temp equals int array j -1, and then we're going to do int array j -1 equals array j. And last but not least, array j equals temp. Oh, wow, that was a doozy. Oh, wow. Anyways, let's see if it works before I even talk about it anymore. Because if it fails, then it didn't work. All right, let's see what I got here. Array before sort was 590, 45, 53. Array after bubble sort was 59. All right, something messed up. So let's see what we did wrong here. One moment. All right, I'm back. I had some stuff mixed up in here. Some of the things were missing. So anyways, I ran it again. And we got what we needed here. We had the array bubble sort beforehand and then afterwards. So as you see in the example here, we start off with our creating our array, putting the numbers in there. We did a system out print as we talked about. We said array. This I didn't have set before. What happened is, what I had wrong before is I wasn't calling this sort this was missing, and that was causing me a problem because I didn't know what to do at that point. Anyways, as you see here, we go down, have our code, and it works. So if we run it again, we have that. Now we could start off and we could change the numbers around too. So we don't have to do 5, 9, 90. Another thing is, let's say that you didn't want to put these numbers here. Let's say you wanted to create a variable, and let's say that, all right, we're going to hold those numbers somewhere else. So let's say create variable. All right, so what you can do is, I added some code here, is let's say that you didn't want to do the int array equals new. You could do it up here and say, hey, int my array equals new int. Then you could say int array equals my array, and then it grabs those values down there. So those are alternate solutions you could do. We're not going to do that right now. I just wanted to kind of show you something else you could do. And you can change the numbers around. So I'd say play around with it, see what you can do, see if you can figure out. And this is your assignment, so if you get this, you'll be fine for a week. So hopefully you learned something. If you don't, if you have questions, please email me and we could go over it. Thanks a lot and have a good day.